Arcs is one of the most popular games currently out there in the board game space, and I was curious how good it was. I went to our local game store. They had a copy of the base game with the Leaders expansion, so thankfully for that, and I decided to pick it up. But is it worth the hype? Is this game meeting all the expectations? I'm going to kind of talk about what my experiences are with this game, because I think that could help people decide if this game is worth chasing down or not. So if you're interested in watching that, my name is Brian, this is Game Brigade, and let's go. Okay, so as I said, we've played Arcs a few times now, and I've had some mixed feelings. Let me start off with that, so that as you're going into this video, as you're getting your understanding of where I'm coming from, I've had a very mixed experience with Arcs. But with that, though, I am still intrigued enough to want to explore the mechanics of this game and see if was some of those experiences just off normal, or are those things that can happen regularly. So let's talk about it. Arcs, at its core, of course, is a trick-taking game. Now, I am not a trick-taking player. It's not something that I normally go out and seek for my board games or my card games. So this was actually one of my first times really trying to get the system of it. And the first time we played this game, we completely played the trick-taking mechanic completely wrong. So understand that my first experience in playing this game, the actual mechanic that this game is corely set around, we played the system completely wrong. And what do I mean by that? Well, there are several different suits of cards in this game. We've got construction, administration, mobilization, aggression. There might be another one, I'm not positive. But those are just the ones that I drew in my random 6 hands here. And each of those give different types of actions for us to take on our turn and provide to do different things on the board to influence our empire by either building more ships or getting different types of resources through taxing our cities or our opponent's cities if we can control of them, going to battle by rolling these dice and taking out our opponents, or capturing their agents. These are the core mechanics of the game. And the way we played it the first time, so you guys have a base understanding of what I'm talking about, is if someone played a card, say, do I have one that's double? Let's say, here we go. Here's a good example. If someone played construction, and this construction's a 5, we played that you just had to be in suit. So the next person could play a 3 and take their 3 actions. Now, that gave us, in our first gameplay of this, a lot of actions, way more actions than the game normally allows, and gave us an experience that was kind of fun and fulfilling because we had a lot of powers and abilities. And who doesn't love getting powers and abilities? But this game's completely devoid of that. I mean, not devoid of that, but that was kind of like a harsh statement. This game is very much more restrictive in that, because it clearly says you must surpass, copy, or pivot. And those are the 3 key points of it. So what it means is if someone plays a card, and let's say someone leads off with his mobilization 6, then you have to surpass this card to be able to take advantage of your actions. Well, in a normal 2 or 3 player game, there is no card higher than 6. In a 4-player game, there are 7s and 1s that are added to the deck. But at this point, there's nothing higher than that. So even if I had a mobilization, I'm not going to be able to take advantage of the actions, and those are defined by those pips up here at the top of the card, how many actions you can take. So I would have to then play a different card, either copying it or pivoting, playing one face down or playing face up. But either way, whichever option I take, I'm only going to get 1 action of the chosen card. So I can either copy and do a mobilization and either do move or influence, or I can pivot and do 1 card of my play type, or I have the option of stealing the initiative. So that's the one way to prevent this, is you play the highest card to steal the initiative. One of those ways would be playing a card face down like that to steal the initiative, but in this situation with that example, it wouldn't have worked, so the player would have maintained it. Why is it important to seize the initiative? Well, When you play a card, you have the option, if you are the initiative holder, to declare your ambition, which you'll then place this 0, which kind of changes the rules regarding the surpass, copy, pivot options. But you're going to take one of these scoring tokens and placing it on whatever matches here, which is Warlord here, and you're declaring that this is a victory point. So the first game, we played the game where you just had to play in suit. The number didn't really matter, but whoever had the higher number was gaining initiative, was kind of what we did. The second game, we realized, oh, no, we're doing this completely wrong. We need to play in suit and surpass, or copy and pivot. And it completely changed the feeling of the game. It really condensed the game into a much tighter, more restrictive environment. And some people might really love that. Other people didn't like it at all. I had hands where I would look at my hand. We were playing this, one of the times it was a 4-player game, and I'm looking at a hand of 1s, 2s, and 3s, and there was really no opportunity for me ever to gain the initiative other than one time, because otherwise people were either playing 7s before I could go, gaining the initiative, or they were playing their own initiatives and securing it, and either I was always out of suit or didn't have a number able to surpass. Now, that is part of the game, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to make this video. This is not a review or anything like that. This is just a discussion. And one of the reasons I was intrigued by this system is like, okay, I just have to think harder about what people are playing, pay attention to what suits are being played, so that way I know if I have suits that are most likely going to come up later or whatever. And I like the idea of trying to figure that out. So it does intrigue me to be like, okay, maybe there's more to this than this feeling, but it definitely had a very bad feeling in regards to this trick-taking system. And when the entire core of the game is being held up by that system, and it's probably, for me, one of the weaker points, that's questionable. So I do want to talk about something I really like, though. The combat was really cool. I like it. So let's say you have some ships in combat over here. You will have an option of selecting some of these dice here based on the amount of ships that you have in the combat. So here I would have 3 ships, and I could choose one of these 3 colors. We have the orange color, the red color, or the blue color. And the things that you could choose any combination. I could choose one of each. I could choose one of each, or I could do 2 red and an orange, whatever I want to do. But they all provide a different effect. The blue dice do not raid my opponents, and they are only damaging my opponents, because some of these dice actually can damage yourself, but they do not hit as often. As you can see, I just missed that one right there. The red dice hit the hardest. They do have the opportunity that your opponents can strike you first, destroying some of your ships before you even get a chance to hit them. And your dice can can also damage yourself. And the orange dice can deal damage to yourself. It is also a way to deal damage to your opponent's bases, and it is a way or a method to steal items from their resource row or from their tableau if they've taken some of these guild cards or the guild cards based on the amount of keys that they have collected. So I really, really like the idea of, okay, we want to, I want to just steal some stuff. I'm not here to hurt you. I'm just here to raid you. So I'm going to roll some dice, and unfortunately I only got 1 key, so I can only take this token right here, kind of thing. And then I dealt damage to your city, so unfortunately your city is going to be destroyed. It's going to cause a revolt. And I dealt 3 damage to my ships, so I'll just deal those damage to my ships like that. It's really interesting kind of mechanically how the dice give you some opportunities to play in a unique setting or a unique way. And I also like the restrictions based on the card play, in terms of the actions of how are you going to do it, how are you going to get there, what cards are you going to play to eventually get there. Like in this case, I only have 1 aggression card that I can play out for that ability. So it's either a move or a battle. So I'd have to figure out some other ways. The alternative thing I really wanted to mention with that then are these resources. There's a whole slew of resources that are available to use. And I love the fact that they give you additional actions, especially because you need them, because the trick taking is so awkward sometimes, that you need additional ways to play this game to try to get some power. So you have a bunch of these tokens that you'll eventually be collecting and placing them on your player board. And over here there is a a thing called the prelude action. After I place my card down, but before I take the actions, I can do a preload action by discarding the token and then referencing my player board and doing what it says. So for example, the psionic token I just discarded, I can take an action of the lead card, which is administration. I could tax, so I can get another token from based on one of my cities. And then I will then take the action of my pivot card here, which is battle. And we would battle, for example, something like that. Okay, so that's kind of the idea of how that mechanics works. I really liked the way these integrated with the game, and instead of just being a resource that's so defined like money or material, like you need material to build ships, you don't even do that in this game. If you just want to build, you just build where your starports are. If you want to actually spend the money though, you can take a build action by discarding the material token. I really like that option, the aspect of the game, and I think it's almost necessarily needed because of the trick taking, as I mentioned earlier. The other thing I wanted to mention, obviously the ambition section is really cool. I really like the way this works. I also like, and after each scoring event, the lowest scoring ambition is flipped over so that it resets the available points, and then the next, as it grows, all these points are going to get flipped. And eventually you're going to have a kind of an escalation of points going on. And also in all my games, we've also either finished in round 3 or round 4. I've never even gotten to round 5 yet because the escalation of the points is so great. And the final thing I wanted to talk about that I thought was actually really, really cool, kind of hard to integrate because of the way the games are kind of limiting you in the available actions you can do. But you have these leaders and these guild cards. And I know the rule book says to not play with these at the first, and we did that. We didn't play with these in the beginning. I wish we did, because it adds the layer that the game needs, I felt like, to get some of the really cool experiences that this game can offer. But maybe that's because I like to rush into adding additional content on top of the system, and instead of enjoying the base game. So that could just be a fault of my own. But effectively what these do is you are going to draft in a reverse player order the leader cards and the lore cards. And these cards basically provide you an asymmetrical ability. For the most part, when you play this game, you are completely symmetrical. There's nothing different between you or me in terms of other than our starting locations and the player area we are in terms of our starting position. But these actually give you a unique starting position based on your player count. It also gives you a ability that only you have and that you can utilize, and it also gives you some starting resources that you'll have to utilize and work with. While the lore cards usually give you some sort of an ability, might give your ships an ability, or give your cities some sort of ability. They usually give you some sort of additional ability. And you're going to draft these in reverse order, as I mentioned. So our fourth player will pick a card, third, second, first, and then it goes back to fourth player. You know, originally we're like, oh, is it a reverse snake? So it'll go this way, then back. No, but what I like about that is, like, when we did it, our fourth player drafted a leader, our third player drafted a leader. Me as the second player, I took a lore because I was like, you know, he's only going to take one leader. These guys can't take another leader. So I'm already going to get a majority of what's left. I might as well take the best lore card when it comes around. And then the first player did the exact same thing. So those leader cards that I could have drafted just came back around for me anyways. And then I was able to pick a leader based on my lore card. I really, really like that asymmetrical aspect. I will say that not all of them have been very good in terms of getting them to use. Some of them were very powerful. Some of them were not so powerful or more complex. I do wish, and I don't think I saw this anywhere, if they had put like a pip here that says like complexity level, like 2, 3, or 4, you know, something that says like this leader is more complex to use. And I like it when gaming companies do that. Not necessarily means that their power level is better, but to get the full aspect of this character's ability to work will require a deeper knowledge of the game. So with all those kind of discussions about the key points of the game, what are my final thoughts? What are my thoughts right now? Not my final thoughts, but my thoughts on ARX. After several plays, I still am thinking about this game, which is different from me. Normally, we play a lot of games here on the channel in the studio, and we move on to the next game because we've played this one, we've gotten it, we got to get to the next game. And this one I keep coming back to because it is intriguing and it is fun. And the trick-taking part, and I don't care for it, does cause a lot of, ruckus and commotion and whatnot at the player table, which I love. That's one of the reasons why I play board games. So this game is hitting on a lot of marks. The thing is when you have an experience that is so high and then an experience is so low, and unfortunately the high experience was not a good experience. It was not playing the game correctly. But when I have a variance like that, it really questions me. The last time I had one is Nemesis, which you can't see down here, where Nemesis was a game that was so rated highly for me, and then I had some bad games, and then I stopped wanting to play it because the time investment in a game that is so willing to offer me different levels of experience in terms of enjoyment level is really hard for me to want to table. And Arcs provides, a decent amount of playtime, especially at 4 players. And if there's that chance of variable experiences in terms of fun, it makes it less likely to come out to the table. I'm actually nervous bringing this up to the player group again and saying, hey, do we want to try Arcs again? The last time we played, one of our friends, I'm not going to say his name, but he was effectively, but not completely, because the game doesn't technically eliminate you. There's ways to come back. But he was almost effectively eliminated from the game. He made a giant death ball, and if you don't know what a death ball is, it's basically where you just have all your units together and just was kind of storming around the territory, causing havoc. And that was cool in the beginning. He looked like he was very strong, but eventually all his ships were sideways and wounded, and it took just one other player to come in there and deal 1 damage to all his ships and get all his captives. So all his ships were captive. They also were not, Warlord was not triggered for, I think, at least 2 turns. So his ships were stuck. And then I actually was sitting on his only starport. So he had no ships on the board, only 1 starport. If he builds a ship, it comes in damage because I'm blockading it. I own it. And so it was just a very difficult situation. Now, if I had destroyed the starport, the rules state that he can place 3 ships in a free sector, and it kind of gets you a free start. You can come back into the game. But by choosing not to destroy the sector, it was basically he could only build 1 ship a turn. It comes in damaged. I can then battle it, take it over, take the trophy, and keep you locked in. And that really made my friend, when we were still in round 3, he was like, hey guys, do you mind if I just leave? You guys can play the game, the 3 of you, and I'll just take off. And I was like, it's weird. Like, is that a game experience that you want to promote into a situation? And he couldn't really do anything either, because the trick-taking mechanic, he's taking 1 action a turn. I was also only taking 1 action a turn because I was getting awful hands and not able to do anything. I think it's interesting talking about awful hands. I watched the Shut Up and Sit Down review. I didn't finish it, though. But he did talk about how Arcs is a game where every hand you draw is... people call it an awful hand, and I do agree with that, because every time I look at my hand, I'm like, geez, this is an awful hand. I don't know what I can actually do with this. But the game I played truly felt that way, because I couldn't take more than 1 action a turn, and every time I wanted to seize the initiative, someone else had already done that prior to coming back to me. So I never really had those opportunities. So yeah, that's it. This is a rambly, just let's talk Arcs. I know everyone's talking about it, and I was super excited to buy this game. I still am intrigued enough to think about picking up the campaign version, because I think the campaign with the additional lore cards sounds really cool. And it's offering an experience that's not like anything else I have in my collection right now that this provides. So I'm pretty excited for this game. I want to keep playing it. I'm wondering where it's going to be in a year. Will this still be in my collection? Or will it be in my top 50, top 20? Who knows? I have literally no idea. And normally I have a pretty good sense of where a game's going to fall in my collection. In Arcs, I have no clue. So that's it. Hopefully, guys, this helped you. I probably did. Probably just put more, shit in the air. But yeah, my name is Brian from Game Brigade, and I will talk to you very soon.